this. You know, so when and so you have this paradox that's going on even right now where um these clashes between different nation states and people among nations trying to solve their economic and political problems, but they're trying to do it without telling the truth of how we got to the where we are. And they're trying to restore the economic systems based on the blind faith systems of Sylvester and and all that with this tithing system that they had been governing the planet for quite some time with. And so the people are in this state of mind that they can't live because they've been trained to this, that they cannot survive if they don't pay taxes to Rome. They just they'll move Rome and instead of saying taxes, they'll instead of saying tithe, they'll say tax. And so they don't know that this is where the priesthood, by design and by fraud, have actually infiltrated or taken over 90 or more percent of all governmental structures on Midgard Earth. And this is the source of almost all of your problems. And the fact that they know much of, not all, the ancient sciences of Hikupta, and they hide. So when they're talking about the ancient science, in modern world, some people say Moorish science. They'll say the Saba knowledge or keeping the Sabbath all mean the same thing. They're simply really talking about how things really work here at Midgard. That's the truth. They will not tell the people the truth that when the 72 scholars, they'll say septa, which means seven. Well, they'll not tell the truth about the 72 scholars that the popes assigned to modify the Septuaginta and to leave out of the Septuaginta Fatima, Muhammad, etc. So when people talk about Muhammad and Fatima, they're thinking Holy Quran only, etc. And it never dawns on them that the science of the hemispheres, the northern hemisphere of the Amaphorites, is symbolized by Muhammad. In the secret societies, when they refer to the mountaintop, they're talking about Muhammad's mountain, which is also dealing with the hex alpha principle of balance and isonomy, which is the carpenter's tools symbolized by the compass and the square, or they say Jesus was a carpenter. So these metaphors are actually dealing with charting the stars, charting navigation, not just on Midgard or in the waters, but also actually with star systems. So when you're talking about a sextant and a rudder, that has always been used for navigation, for mooring on this planet, on at Midgard, which is why whether you were referring to airships or or ethereal ships, or you're talking about water ships. So if you're talking about Yahweh, which is really earth, air, fire, and water, not a being. Whenever you would transport the ships, air, fire, water, earth, you would call it mooring. And so this is how the term, even though they hide the real origin, because they don't tell the people the real history, whenever you're moving shipping, they'll call it mooring the ship. And because the hybrids have taken over the imperial dynasties of Hikupta, they'll hide it behind the word or the name Peter. So when you see them promoting Peter, Peter, Pita, Pita, Pata, Pata, and so their people are looking at, from a connotative perspective, they keep looking at men or these images of a guy in a jalabu walking around loving Jesus type thing. But that's for children. That's for children. But you're really simply talking about dynasty operations, ephemerides readings, and charting, and movement and mooring of ships of Yahweh, which we air, fire, earth, and water, all the methods. And so people are just, kind of don't get it when they're looking at travel through the earth. They're looking at travel on the earth. They're looking at travel above the earth, etc., via earth, air, fire, and water. And that's just simply a part of the fact of how this planet has always been operating. The difficulty we have right now is that the tools and the institutions that have been used, and you can call them the Antichrist tools, to keep humanity in a box, sort of like in a box. And then when you look at the Berber tribe stories, like the Arabian Nights and stuff like this. This is where also you'll see the metaphors and the stories where the genie gets out of the bottle, and that operates on multiple levels. Because remember, when you look into African stories, they're always telling you more than one thing. So there's both them finding out, or what they would call the secrets of alchemy, or using base metals to create gold. And we got more gold on this planet than they'll ever tell you anyway. So it's sort of like for them to go through all this stuff is really just trying to maintain control. But their real concern is us getting that among us, among our people. They know that they are, because it operates in nature, that some of these women, by virtue of their vibrational state and what you say, the harmonics with Midgard or with Mother Nature, will produce what has always been called champions. And the champions is another cover up for the unique. They're not really unique, but you can say every once in a while they will give birth to daughters and sons who come here for the specific purpose of bringing balance. And this is where, say, the images anthropomorphic of like Serapis and Jesus and Muhammad and Zikrab, etc., all of them, that's where that comes in. But these are only stories of energies. So and this is also when you see the keys to rulership, or the rod, say my rod and the staff which will comfort me, and you see the high house, the ruler of the high house doing like this. That's the rod, that's the staff. Those are tools. Okay. And weapons. So when you would see that's the rod and the staff that you talk about in the Bible. The rod and that staff shall comfort me. There was protectors. And you see the Ankh. So the Ankh is actually the womb. See, so but you got to look at the metaphor. See, the Ankh is symbolic of the womb, but the womb, though it's in the body, it's also, because it's not immediately what you call visual from the eye as you see it, as you see the body, you understand its operation. So it's an abstract. And so that would be called what? The secret chamber, you see? And so that's the dark chamber. And so, they call it sometimes the chamber of the moon. And so when you look at the different temples and things that Africans did or constructed over the millennia, they would take on those names and stuff like that. And so that you'll know, because it all has to do with the moon and the sun. And that's not the only sun. It's not the only moon. However, how they operate at Midgard is that it governs the flow of the water. So you'll see one face of it. and it operates on 13 and on 9. And so you'll see, as women and all other feminine principle that's manifest in the physical produces, it will be governed by the moon calendar. That's why when you look at African culture, you got to look at it from a bicameral perspective, so that a lot of the confusion that exists now would not exist. See, so when the hybrids teach the history, they will teach the history only by the sun calendar when they know that it's bicameral. And then you will see in the Picts in say in Phoenicia, you'll see them the ancient Moorish Picts. They will use a symbol of the eagle, the double-headed eagle, with its head pointed two different ways, opposite 190.
Is that like the two reverse?
That's why they use that with 33 degrees.
And the two-party system?
Yes. But it's two chambers of the brain. It's the two chambers of the brain, to the chambers of heaven. And so when the connection of all of the sites are in place, because you got to remember, when they ruled, everything was basically done on 7. So even the governmental provinces were generally 7. So they would have, like, say, for instance, if you had a nation state, it would be divided into 7 provinces or 7 territories. That's true.
Someone asked if the 7 sisters were also indicative of the 7 continents.
Well, they would say that, although there's not in that sense. Because the reality, we would say North America and South America, but North America and South America is one continent, in truth.
But you were, can I? Well, go ahead.
But go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was going to interject earlier when you were talking about some of the things that are in the pipeline to be revealed, that have existed, for a long period of time, that have been hidden from humanity or the masses. We always call the masses, like, say, the 99%. So in terms of what we've been listening to with regard to, say, the med beds and things like that, things that regenerate limbs, things that regenerate minds and take away.
Now you're going back to Genesis.
Right.
See, so Genesis, again, is not even what people think it is. No. Even the view, because the book has been majorly altered. The interesting thing is, even though they altered the books, because that book is contemporary to us, truthfully, to be honest with you. But even with the modification, they really couldn't hide everything. That's why it's been necessary for them to keep wars going on, putting nations against nations, and then they themselves would take the place as vicar, which is also why the hybrids refer to themselves as vicar.
Right.
And so write that down, you all. Vicar. VICAR.
Vicar.
Yeah.
Vicar of Christ.
Yeah.
But what I was going to say is that even with, the technology that perhaps that I have, which we're not allowed to say what it can do. We can't, what they have. They have it so that can't say that it can't. It doesn't diagnose. It doesn't.
The hybrids have it that you can't.
Right. We can't.
All right. Now let's get.
I'm just.
Yeah. No, I'm making that point because. Right. While you're saying what you're saying, because I want you to say what you're saying.
Because we're told that we can't, because the people.
Who is? I was just naming who the who is.
I don't want to put, the alphabet, it starts with F and ends with A.
Yeah.
So they don't allow certain things to be advertised, just like you can't say certain herbs or whatever would heal.
Because they are attacking Midgard.
Right.
Now that is part of.
Tosh, I got a point.
Go ahead.
Make a point.
No, I just want you to say that's part of the Christ.
How he is, right?
That's the Antichrist.
He already knows my thoughts. At least he thinks he did. The point I wanted to make with that technology in something that I shared with you was a case in point of what's possible.
Oh yeah. Yes.
My father.
Share it. You should share it.
Yeah. My father, who was given a diagnosis of. You were doing a class August 15th when we got to put him in the hospice situation.
Yes.
And has been, it's still with us, and the technology that I have, and I put it up here and I post it and I run it through. You saw a picture.
Oh yes.
Of my dad.
Yes.
On that Friday.
On that
which
Friday.
Was whatever Friday was. And I was able to get in and
look like a state of transition.
Right. I was able to get in, scan him with this technology, and then come home and begin to send out these energetic, whatever I can't say they are, send him these things. When I went yesterday, which was
singing happy birthday to you.
89th solar return.
Singing happy birthday all the way through.
His own happy birthday. Yeah. And they're telling me in the last 5 or 6 days, his condition had just markedly improved. And I say to the woman, well, this is what I've been doing since Friday. And took a picture, and it looks like night and day.
Yeah. Like really.
And then
absolutely.
Some of you saw the post, but if you saw what he looked like 6 days prior,
please,
you would have said
he looked like he was transiting.
Yes. So what I'm saying is, this type of technology and all this stuff does exist, and they kept these things from us. Instead, they would like to ply us with poisons that are called medicines. Pharmaceutical is pharmacy. It's like the word in witchcraft.
Word virus means poison.
Yeah, but
it does.
Yeah. So I'm saying there's things that exist that people don't even have to go through, but yet we
never did have to go through.
Yeah, we don't have to go through, because the ability to do certain things has always been there.
Now let's look at this. We look at these problems at Midgard, and what we do. You notice that when we speak about what the priesthood has been doing and is doing, we always come from a position of apologizing to tell the truth, and then modifying while we're attempting to imply or signify the truth.
Right.
There's a part of the Antichrist operations. However, the point that I'm saying is, when and because I really didn't want to interrupt you, I just want to make a point that when we start mentioning that when we keep saying they, you got to start naming who. From a metaphysical point of view, when we want to solve these problems, we got to stop being vague. We can be vague by virtue of protecting some, while the dark priesthood is still in power, and while they're still willing to and able to cause havoc at Midgard. We want to just pretty much put it this way. We know that when we're talking about we're talking about the heterogeneous hybrids, but not all of them. It's just that the dark priesthood that had been doing the damage to Midgard have chosen that bed of physicality as their coven, one of their covens. That's all. And so he hides among them.
It just makes me it just makes me frustrated and angry when I hear about people becoming, incapacitated, debilitated,
and you think it's something in nature, and it really isn't, when you find out that none of this stuff is natural.
Get rid of the people,
because no, genocide them out. See, get rid of is mild. It's like kind of like, he unjustly took my stuff. No, he robbed me. How about that? You know what I mean? Much, even as we talk about the issues of jurisdiction, while we're approaching some of these things that we're talking about, we're really trying to help the people to be courageous enough to start rejecting that which is false. Because the one of the problems that we have, and I understand, the people's hesitation, because Rome has presented themselves and backed it up that they are vicar, and this is why our people are fearful, because Romans do what Romans do.
Yeah.
And this is back to the issue: are the people willing to admit to themselves, that the problems on the planet is that Rome has claimed godship and lordship, and they have been doing these things to humanity and to Midgard, and we have sat back and made excuses for them, and then also keep making excuses rather than admit what we can actually insight see. And then we keep covering up our eye, our pineal, keep covering up our pineal, and then charging everyone else with calling the seeing of our pineal evil, meaning that you're not supposed to see what's going on. So you cover up your pineal gland, etc., which is really, the blending of all your seven sights. And so this is again where it's important to recognize the administration over and maintenance of hell on earth has much to do with suppressing the thought, suppressing the activation of the pineal gland, misrepresenting the disciplines of ancient Hikupta and going beyond that, contaminating every discipline, so that when the people begin to become aware of the disciplines, they would call all the disciplines evil rather than recognize that the hybrids have actually used them as fronts. The same way they would use, as an example, one of the most common sources for to feed the vampires among the hybrids has openly and is known around the world been what they call the Red Cross. Yeah. Under the guise of helping people with blood transfusions and stuff like that. And they was really making some what you would call an elixir that they do the ritual with. Here's the body of Christ and here's the blood, and the people look at the ritual and don't know that these people are heterogeneous hybrids, and that's just a ritual of what they've been doing for centuries. Not knowing that they really are vampires, like for real, for real, for real.